least you've got one.
Okay, well, I have one pick for this week, Miss Juneteenth, and it did premiere at the Sundance Film Festival this year, and I believe it was released on June 19th. So I liked it because it really touched on some ideas that I don't think you see commonly depicted in films around family, Black business, and civil society. So, really, I would say key Black institutions. So, it's the story of former beauty queen Turquoise Jones's dream of seeing her teenage daughter, Kai, become Miss Juneteenth. And for those who don't know, Juneteenth is the celebration of June 19th, 1865, in Galveston, Texas, about 2 months after the end of Civil War, when slaves learned that they had been liberated and there was a celebration for emancipation. So, as a side note, a few years back, I'd suggested to some Black British acquaintances that we could do a combination Juneteenth Windrush Day thing. Because, I'm not going to do Windrush Day. That's not my, that's not my thing. But I said it's around the same time because Windrush Day is on June 22nd. And I thought, oh, how fun would that be? And they were like, oh, no, we can't do an American holiday. So we'll only come if it's a Windrush Day celebration, like I would do something like that. But you know what? That is fine because next year, 2021, I'm just going to do the Juneteenth celebration. So then that way we can just only sing the Black national anthem and we don't have to do any Windrush related things, if that's the case. So they can do that separately. Since people didn't want to do a combo one, haters. So
haters. Well, not that you're carrying it at all, no.
But don't you think that's a bit much like I'm hosting and paying for all the barbecue, and yet you're oh no, we can't do it.
You missed the most important part. Now I've heard that. I'm 100% with you. That's
exactly all you had to do is show up.
Oh, this is someone who had made, what was it, 8 different cakes at the last barbecue she held.
Okay.
No,
and had a written like your PowerPoint presentation. She had one for her menu. With was it like laminated? It was a laminated menu.
Right. Wow, you really go in on the event. Fine.
Well, you know why? Because I feel so inadequate because of the way my grandmother would do the holidays, and I'm convinced that it's not going to be right. And I think the worst thing you can do, which people have done to me, they invite me to their house and they serve me crap. And you're like, so you invite me and I have to travel here and you're going to give me this garbage. And you think that that's acceptable. And I think that's the worst thing you can do to someone. So I always think if I have several desserts, if one doesn't come out, there will definitely be a dessert.
It's the most beautifully American sentiment I've ever heard delivered in the way that I could ever hear it. I once sat at a dinner party with, we went out for a birthday meal with a whole group of us, but there was a part of the table that was Americans and Germans together. And I've never seen anyone be so beautifully straightforward with the waiters when they asked, is everything okay? I wasn't expecting the barrage of brutal honesty. And as much as I embrace brutal honesty being in the North, we like to varnish it a little bit. And they were just looking at each other when we were all like, yeah, it's fine, thanks, we're really enjoying ourselves. And they just looked at us as we just shat on the table. They're like, no, I have some words for you. You better get a pen and paper. The
only reason why I stopped doing that was because it never got you anywhere. So you would complain and they'd say, okay. So there was never anything that they would do to fix it. So I don't even bother anymore. It's like, what's the point? Because nothing will happen. They're just like, thanks for sharing that. So can I get you something else?
Yeah, that's how it works here.
So yeah, and that happened to me a couple years ago. I won't name names, but a friend's friend had New Year's, and mind you, there were only 5 of us there. He served us something. I don't even know what that garbage was. It was like some sort of stew gone wrong. It was like meat and potatoes and water. And I'm thinking, people are coming to your house and you're really giving this to me? I baked a pie from scratch. And you think, don't get me wrong, if cooking's not your thing, it's not for everybody. But if you can't cook and I'm inviting people over, I'm going to order some takeout. I'm going to make sure that people are going to eat properly. And then had the cheek to say, how is it? And it's like, you're eating it. How do you think it is? This is awful.
I love how someone's going to recognize themselves in this bit.
He won't listen to it.
I feel like it should not be included because someone's ears are burning brutally right now. And
why would you do that when you invite people over? It's one thing if I just show up to your house and it's like, okay, it doesn't even have to be clean because look, I didn't know you were coming. But you it's like you know I'm
Uh,
coming. It's New Year's Eve. And then it got even worse. So he didn't have any films to show us, no entertainment. And someone suggested a film and he said on Amazon Prime, that's £2. Are you for real too? You work. He has a good job and you don't want to spend £2 so your guests can be entertained. People are something else, like no manners. Anyway, I digress. I digress. So
the level of
point
indignation saved for war crimes and poor food is I feel on a par potentially.
it is because that's a choice. You don't have to invite people to your house. If you know entertaining isn't your thing or you don't want to shell out a few £100s, then you need to meet at a restaurant and call it a day. Don't invite me to your house and say, I'm going to do it trash. And then I want you to smile and accept it because you're not outside. What? What's going on
You
here?
fucking tell them, mate. You
You
fucking
see,
tell them.
so if you're going to be watching, what is it,
Myself.
Miss Juneteenth? Bear this in mind.
Yeah, these are all the lessons that have come in Juneteenth.
The
I'm
takeaway
now
from the film.
thoroughly prepared to
now
have
this
you
is a
as a
takeaway.
guest or not, as it may be.
But that's just it. When you're a guest, you want to make sure that people are comfortable, they're fed, and they have drink. And yeah, it costs, but then that's why it's optional. You don't have to do it. But if you're going to do it right. So
Yeah,
when we meet
exactly.
Turquoise Jones and Juneteenth,
Back to the
she's
film.
separated from her mechanic husband, Ronnie, working 2 part-time gigs. One as a waitress / restaurant manager, and another as a mortuary cosmetologist, and barely making ends meet. In her words, she's making do, but she's really not. In fact, the electricity is cut off on her daughter's birthday, so she really can't afford life. And for reasons never totally made clear, her blind ambition is to see her daughter become Miss Juneteenth so that she can win a scholarship to an HBCU, that's a historically Black college university, and have the life that she always wanted if she'd not married and had Kai. So you get the sense in the film that the woman who runs the Miss Juneteenth beauty pageant had high hopes for her, but she was never able to reach her potential. And you imagine it's just because she fell in love and chose a different path in life. But of course, there's consequences for that because she lives a very unstable life. So it is cliched, but I did like the film because I believe it was a realistic portrayal of contemporary Southern Black life. And by realistic, I mean common, something that a lot of people experience more often than not. And it's very much the way things are happening. So you see that both Turquoise and her soon to be, but not quite because they're still in love in hopes of reconciling and sleeping together, husband aspire to own something and make a life for their family. And I think that's a sentiment that I see a lot in the Black community, this aspiration for entrepreneurship, to have a business, to have your own thing, but you never really see it played out in film where people want it, but they're not able to attain it. And I also like that we get a peek of the social events of Black community groups and social clubs. And in this case, it's a Juneteenth beauty pageant. And it's provincial, but I think it reflects the behavior and attitudes and values of the Black bourgeoisie, which would be the group to really run these kinds of events, where refinement is characterized by style, manners, and disposition, and not really reflective of one's actual class or status. So it's, interestingly, or I guess maybe not so, I've been aware of this because that's how my mom really, from a very poor family, and through her church, she was mentored by this older woman who had gone through this process herself, right? So she was college educated in the 30s, which was a big deal for anybody, let alone Black people, and really helped my mom to understand what she should enjoy doing, really her taste. And she's really shaped my mom's taste, which has shaped mine, which is pretty different from really my family and anyone else. It comes from this idea that you can become that through your disposition, even if you don't have the money to back that up. So I like that was in the film. And the only thing that I didn't like really, and this is somewhat of a spoiler, in the end, Turquoise does figure out a way to have her own business because she's a bit lost in the film, which is why she's putting all her hopes and aspiration and dreams in her daughter. And she learns to accept, unlike her own mother, who was never able to really accept her, she learns to accept that her daughter has different dreams. And she's learning that I have to support her dream because she can't be my dream. I need my own thing. And even though she had been running a business, she never really thought of herself as being able to be a businesswoman. And it ends that way. And I just thought, well, what about her husband? I think I just don't like this idea that you get your own individual come up. And I don't find that empowering as a woman. I think everything has to be about family and community. So I wasn't very fulfilled of her just doing something on her own, because, what's it for if you can't do it with your husband and in your community? Then it's, I don't want to say worthless, but that's not a victory to me. So I found the ending unsatisfying, and yet I really enjoyed the film, and I encourage other people to see it. So I believe it's available on demand, but I saw it at BFI.